Several members of Wisconsin's congressional delegation made headlines this week. One story involves three of them. Democrat Mark Pocan called on Republican Brian Stile to release video of Republican Derek Van Orden yelling at Senate pages in the U.S. Capitol. Stile chairs the House Committee on Administration, which has jurisdiction over Capitol security matters. Stile said he has no plan to keep that information from the public, and he's reached out to Capitol Police. Another member of the Wisconsin delegation announced he's running for re-election. Republican Tom Tiffany said he'll run for a third term. He represents the state's 7th congressional district. That means he won't run for U.S. Senate against the Democratic incumbent, Tammy Baldwin. Let's welcome in Republican Representative Tom Tiffany to the program now. Congressman, thanks for being with us this morning.
Yeah, good to join you, Sarah.
So you announced that you would be seeking re-election in the House of Representatives and not taking on Democratic Senator Tammy Baldwin for the U.S. Senate seat. What led to your decision?
Yeah, so the last couple of months we've been doing some evaluation if it would be best for me to run for U.S. Senate. And each year, if I decide to run for office, it's always about where I can do the most good for the people of the state of Wisconsin. And ultimately, after some conversations, especially with my wife and family, I decided that it's best to stay here in the 7th Congressional District, run for re-election here in northern and western Wisconsin. And I think I can do the most good here. We've really been driving up our vote totals up here over the last decade. And we want to continue to do that because we got to turn Wisconsin red in 2024 with the big U.S. Senate race that's going to be going on, as well as the presidential election of 2024.
So you have said Baldwin is still vulnerable, but without a strong Republican candidate to challenge her next year at this point, do you see a path for your party to flip this seat?
Yeah, I think we're going to field a very good candidate. I mean, you look back to like 2010, Russ Feingold was viewed as almost invincible. People believed he could not be defeated. And there was a little known small business person from Oshkosh that decided to ran a very effective campaign, and he became Senator Ron Johnson. The same thing can happen here. And I just believe Tammy Baldwin is really uniquely vulnerable at this point. Career politician, started in Dane County politics in the 1980s. But most importantly, she's been a rubber stamp for President Biden. And so you have all these fentanyl deaths as a result of the southern border being open. We're no longer energy independent. And just this week, it was announced that our credit rating is being downgraded for the federal government for only the second time in the history of the United States. I think that rubber stamp that Tammy Baldwin has been for Joe Biden does not sit well for many Wisconsinites.
Do you know who the Republican Party might be looking at next, candidate-wise?
Well, I don't know if it's the Republican Party that's looking. It's who's out there that thinks they can win this race. And I know there's a few people that are out there. I've been talking to a few of those people, and their names are out there. I think on a regular basis. Scott Mayer, Eric Hovde, Sheriff Clark, others have been talked about in regards to this. I believe we're going to have a good candidate here, and I look forward to supporting whoever that is in 2024.
Congressman, I want to turn now to the indictment of former President Trump this past week. These are the most serious charges he is facing yet. You have called this a sham indictment. So you're standing by the former president.
Well, I think what people are seeing is the dual system of justice. I mean, you have the President Biden's son, who last week was going to get a sweetheart deal with no felony charges. I mean, think about it. He had a gun law indictment that they were going to give him a plea deal that was not going to be a felony. I mean, people are really concerned about this, that why does he get, the president's son get one set of, an indictment that goes very light on his charges, but President Trump is then indicted. People don't get it. And that dual system of justice is what we're ultimately concerned about. What I believe is that the American people are very fair-minded. Put all the information out there, let them see what's going on, and they will come to the right decisions in regards to this. And ultimately, the prosecutor, Jack Smith, this is largely a political indictment that he has issued here. And that's what concerns people, is that he's using politics go after who could be President Biden's opponent in 2024.
Well, Hunter Biden is a private citizen, so you think his alleged crimes could be compared to the highest office in the United States, the presidency, where the former president is accused of knowingly trying to overthrow a free and fair election, something that our country was built on.
Yeah, so well, I take you back to after the 2016 election when people like Hillary Clinton and the current minority leader in the House of Representatives, Hakeem Jeffries, said that President Trump was elected illegitimately. I mean, the American people want to get past this and they want to stop looking backwards and they want things to get done that are going to help their country. I mentioned earlier, Sarah, people your age, the number one killer in America now is fentanyl poisonings. That's because of open borders. We no longer are energy independent. I'm seeing gasoline prices at $3.50 a gallon up in our neighborhood. There's no reason for that. And our debt was downgraded for only the second time in American history this week, which I think is the most underreported story out there this week, saying we've got big problems fiscally out in Washington, D.C. People want us to focus on those issues rather than all the political stuff that they just go, what is going on?
Well, we did learn this past week that your fellow Wisconsin Congressman Derek Van Orden reportedly cursed and berated a group of Senate pages at the Capitol. Do you think Representative Van Orden should be reprimanded for this reported conduct?
Well, I think in these situations, Representative Van Orden will have to answer to his constituents. And that's ultimately what should happen. I mean, go back to the Trump indictment. How this should be settled is with an election. It's a political indictment that Jack Smith has issued in regards to President Trump. This should be settled by the voters of America and probably will be in 2024. Representative Van Orden will appear before the voters of the 3rd Congressional District in 2024. They're going to decide if he's done a good job for them. And that's as it should be. They're going to decide in the 3rd Congressional District whether they want Derek Van Orden to continue to be their representative. All I know is the time that I've seen him in Washington, D.C., he brings a lot of passion to his job.
Representative Tom Tiffany, thanks so much for being on the show with us this morning.
Good to join you, Sarah.